Hi, I'm Gina Sauer, back with the fourth installment in my series where I take tips and techniques used by professional actors in the theater and apply them to improve our public speaking skills in the business and legal world. Now, today we're going to have a bit of fun and talk about a topic that might seem like we're going off on a tangent, but actually it's an area of nonverbal communication that can have a huge impact on our ability to affect and impact our audience and get them to respond the way we want. I'm talking about the psychological impact of color in the clothing choices that we make when we give a presentation or lead a meeting, or the color that we choose as a background during a virtual presentation. Of course, we have a long history in the theater of using color to impact the audience's psyche and perceptions with the choices of color and the set design and the costumes. But lest you think this is all just a bunch of fluff, the study of the psychological impact of color is actually a multi-million-dollar industry, and it's relied upon by many other industries like healthcare, architecture and design, marketing, and even in the law and its influences on juries. Let's get started with black clothing. A black suit or dress or shirt can be a great choice when the speaker wants to appear dominant, authoritative, and powerful. So it's no wonder that it's a common choice, for example, lawyers in a courtroom in a high-stakes lawsuit. The downside is it can be perceived as unapproachable. It's not a great choice if you are, for instance, trying to lead a meeting where you are trying to encourage people to share their opinions, or giving a presentation where you want to encourage people to ask questions, especially if your audience or the other team members in the room are people more junior to you who may be intimidated to start with. If you are leading a meeting or giving a presentation where you want to encourage the audience to participate, make sure that you throw some white clothing into the mix. White clothing is perceived as open and inviting communication. It's also perceived as being very organized, which is a great thing to be perceived as if you're leading a meeting. Now let's take the audience participation thing one step further. What if you're leading a meeting where the whole point is to brainstorm and to encourage people to think outside the box? If that's the case, throw in some purple. And I'm not saying that you need to walk in dressed head to toe in a purple suit like your prince or something. But if you have on some purple that's a focal point, studies have shown that purple fosters creativity and encourages that part of people's brains to work. So throw in some purple and see what happens. What about green? Green is perceived to be a very soothing and calming color. So it's a great choice if you're meeting with a colleague or a client who's nervous or apprehensive, or if you have to deliver some bad news. Now, eventually your colleagues may get wise to this, and every time you walk into the office wearing green, they might say, "Oh, someone's getting bad news today." But it is a very soothing and calming color, and it does work. That's why we see it used so much in the medical profession. Earth tones, and especially brown, are perceived as being conservative. So I think it's a great choice if you are presenting some ideas that are maybe a little bit more out there or cutting edge than what your audience is comfortable with. The brown can help temper the newness of that and can help you get buy-in from a more conservative audience. What about true blue? Blue is perceived as loyal and trustworthy, which is why we see so many politicians wearing blue trying to convince us that they are all those things. But it's also why it's a fallback for a lot of speakers and meeting leaders. It's almost always a safe choice regardless of your meeting or presentation topic. It helps establish your credibility and your trustworthiness right from the moment you walk in the door or appear on the computer screen. You may not have a ton of yellow in your wardrobe, but studies show that even adding just a little bit as a focal point in a tie or a scarf, or even having yellow in the room or in the materials that you bring as handouts, can actually aid audience memory and help them better able to retain information. So the next time that you're giving a presentation that's very data-driven and you need your audience to focus in on your facts and figures, try bringing in a little yellow. Of course, we're closing out our journey of the psychological impact of color and how we can use that in our presentations with my go-to favorite, red. Red is an attention getter. It's perceived as energetic, but on the downside, it can also be perceived as dominant or too aggressive. There's a reason that in the theater we so often see villains or aggressive characters dressed in red. So if the point of your presentation is to persuade, or you want to come from a place of power, then by all means, it's a great color choice. But if you're trying to foster collaboration, maybe go with a different color. So the next time that you're preparing for a meeting or planning for a presentation that you'll be giving, take a step back and ask yourself what kind of psychological impact you want to have on your audience and what kind of behavior do you want to influence in them, and adjust your wardrobe or your background as the case may be accordingly. Give it a try and let me know what happens. I'd really be interested. So shoot me a note here on LinkedIn and let me know how it goes. Join me next time where I'll take another tip that I learned in the theater and apply it to improve our public speaking and presentation skills in the business and legal world.